Namaste to all of you. Welcome back to my channel. This is Anvi Prabhu with you. So the Olympics has just opened in Paris and a lot has been going around regarding the opening ceremony and the way it was designed. As usual, there is a lot to unpack in it here, and before we delve into it, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel, like the video, and also comment and join in the conversations down in the comment section below. So this year's Olympics has been dubbed as the worst Olympics opening in history. And to be honest, I feel like you don't even need to dive into the religious and the woke aspects of it, but even just aesthetically, just like basic value wise, it looked like it was trying too hard to prove something. And in this case, of course, as it is most of the times with anything that happens in today's world, it was the woke agenda. So we've spoken a lot about the far left, the woke mentality and the woke culture of today's world on this channel. And I feel like this opening ceremony is like the peak example of it. And I feel like it's like the best example of how desperate the far left is to push its agenda, to push its narrative, and to push its ideologies onto the rest of the world. Of course, the very first point that we're going to talk about is the blasphemy of Christianity. It makes blatant fun of Jesus Christ, it makes blatant fun of Christian symbols and the stories in the Bible. Personally speaking, I'm a free speech absolutist, at least in principle. I feel like we as humans, we deserve to live in a society where each one of us do not have to think twice about voicing our opinions, our ideas, even our criticisms, in fact. And I feel like the more I see today's world, the more I see how the world is progressing in terms of its politics and its societal degeneration, I have to say, that free speech absolutism is an absolute myth. Because to have free speech absolutism, you first need to have every single person on the same level of intellect, of at least of same basic level of dignity. Even the word free speech itself is completely misrepresented and misused. It is only used to gain political brownie points. It is only used when it suits your particular narrative. It's only used to put down somebody else's. And it's not the paths to lead us to the truth anymore at all, unfortunately. And from this viewpoint, what happened at the Olympics opening ceremony was absolutely disgusting. Because if you really want to have a society where free speech is accepted and your criticisms and your interpretations are taken, then it should be dealt with in the exact equal manner to all groups, all cultures, all religions, which is sadly, unfortunately, not the case in today's world at all. So there are only certain religions that are always targeted because they don't say anything back, they don't fight back, and certain religions are completely kept aside because we know what the repercussions will be. Being a Hindu, I am extremely aware of how bad it feels, how disgusting it feels when you see your religion misrepresented, when you see your religion portrayed in a very funny, in a very derogatory manner, which I have seen happening in the media in India as well as in international media as well. So I'm very aware of how the Christians might be feeling now, and which is exactly the reason why I completely support the Christians and the people. I mean, you don't even have to be a Christian to, voice your opinion against what happened. It is really derogatory, and they've taken an incident like the Last Supper, which is basically the Last Supper that Jesus and his apostles have on the day before his crucifixion. So it holds a really heavy emotional and religious value, spiritual value to the practicing Christians. And to use something of that sort to push your woke agenda and to put drag artists in it, again, I am not saying that God doesn't love drag artists or drag artists should never be part of anything that is religious or spiritual, not at all. But there is a way to do things, which leads us to the second point of the supposed inclusivity and the diversity that the director and the organizers were going for. I'm sorry, but I didn't see the diversity and the inclusivity there. All I saw was the woke agenda, the narrative that the left wants to push, which is transgenderism and having drag artists. And if I remember right, there was also a child included in the tableau, wasn't there? how was that in any way inclusive? Like, where was the representation of the other religions there? As a Hindu, I felt unrepresented. I mean, if you have to really look at representation and inclusivity, you have to take the entire gamut of it. The same Last Supper, I feel it could have been done in such a sensitive manner, in a really, truly, genuinely inclusive manner, without making it into a really non aesthetic, unpleasant spectacle. And I don't really understand why people are so desperate to just have this political agendas with every single thing. And I also don't personally understand the relevance of it. What do drag artists have to do with the Olympics? What does a plus sized woman have to do with the Olympics? How is that relevant to the Olympics opening ceremony? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm still struggling to find the answer. So, when there is something artistically done, there has to be a sense of relevance, a sense of thought behind it, a sense of, there has to be a process which would, when you look at it, I wouldn't say make sense per se, but it has to in some way fit into the box where you look at it and you're not repulsed, you're not disgusted, you're not left wondering what exactly is happening. Like, it is so obvious that it is just the narrative that they are trying to push, the narrative of having this so-called world where, drag artists and these gender warriors are like so ill-treated that they want to have this spectacle to bring them all into the fold. It does not achieve any of this. It really does not achieve any of this. And I'm saying this as an artist myself, which brings me to the third point. So even for a brief moment, if you put aside the political aspect of it, if you put aside the woke aspect of it, what exactly was aesthetic in that? Like, it was not visually pleasing to me personally. So even if a person who is unfamiliar with Christianity and the Last Supper and the references to the Bible stories was to watch this, it is not something that is pleasant to the eyes. It is not something that makes you think. It's not something that makes you smile. So even just artistically speaking, there is no merit in this. There might have been bits and pieces in between. But if you have to look at, again, the relevance of it, was that really worthy of the Olympics opening ceremony? I would say no, especially when you compare it to the previous opening ceremonies that we have seen. For example, if you look at the opening ceremony that happened in Greece, it is spectacular. Or even the other opening ceremonies of the previous years, there is something visually arresting in them. There is something pleasing to the eyes and to the ears. I feel like it's high time that we start looking at things not just from the left point of view, from the right point of view, but from the basic point of common sense and of basic human dignity. Is it really worthy of the human race and the human culture? I feel like that's the question that we need to be asking. Not just shove your political ideologies into literally every single breathing, waking moment. Because honestly, if it's the opposing side, everybody is going to be offended. So if the left can be offended by the simple mere act of somebody misgendering them, then I feel like the Christians have all the rights in the world to be offended by the cheap tableau that we saw as part of the Olympics opening ceremony. I feel like we as a human race, we really should start rethinking our values and really try and get out of that political bubble for once, I would say. Honestly, for God's sake, it's the Olympics opening ceremony. Keep it about sports, keep it about people coming together, nations coming together to compete in sports. That's all it should be about. Because if what we saw is an expression of inclusivity and liberty and openness, then honestly, God save us. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please do comment below with your thoughts and opinions. I really love and I really enjoy reading all of them. Until next time, take care.